The transfer portal has really changed college football, and we saw immediately the last few years how much it matters when national championship teams have key contributing players be former transfers, guys that they brought in from other school. But high school football recruiting is always going to matter a ton, especially when you are a major program like the University of Georgia. And you're seeing it. Younger guys are going to be really important for this Georgia Bulldogs football team in 2025. That 2024 recruiting class, I want to hone in on that specifically and talk about those guys in this video because a handful of them are going to be starters. They're going to be in the rotation. They're going to be main pieces for Georgia's team this coming season. And they're going to be sophomores. And some of them are going to be starting for the first time. Some of them are going to be playing significant snaps for the first time. Some of them had some experience as true freshmen last year, but this is a class that I think will go down as a really important one for Georgia over the next few years. We've kind of gone back and looked at like the 2018 class and how important that one ended up being and how they contributed to national championships. The 2020 and the 2021 classes had a lot of young guys that contributed to national championships. We don't know if that's going to happen for these young players. But if Georgia's going to win one in the next year or two, these guys are going to be key cogs in the machine. And I want to talk about the players that are going to be redshirt freshmen or true sophomores in 2025 and why that number one recruiting class, that's going to really matter. They were the number one class. Georgia consistently brings in top recruiting class, top 3, top 5. Well, this number one in 2024 to me matters a lot. Dawgpost.com also matters a lot to me. Make sure you're going and checking out the website. Make sure you look at the newsletter, you look at the deals we got going on, the magazine, everything. Make sure you're checking it out. Everything you need to see is over at dawgpost.com. Can't speak it all into existence over here on the YouTube. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post. If you're just tuning in, I don't know how you ended up a couple minutes into the video, but who are some of the key players in that 2024 class? Well, 2 of them were true freshmen, contributors, and starters last season. One of them, KJ Bolden, the 5-star safety out of Buford, Georgia. He didn't quite start against Clemson in that opening game, but he gets into the rotation there pretty soon and then was never really looked back and was a key piece in the secondary as a starter throughout that 2024 season. Right off the bat, you get a 5-star that's an instant starter as a true freshman. That right there, you know that the recruiting class is off to a good start. But they also had Nate Frazier on the other side of the ball, high 4-star running back, who, due to injuries, part of it is Nate Frazier's talent, but due to injuries, he ended up being needed, and he ended up being the leading rusher for Georgia when it's all said and done. Now he's expected to be RB1 in 2025, leading what will probably end up being some sort of committee-style backfield, but he's the guy that is the young gun with the talent. So right off the bat, the 2024 class was needed immediately, and if they don't have Nate Frazier last year, they have some issues at running back because Trevor Etienne was a little bit in and out of the lineup. They don't like to hand the ball off to Cash Jones. The Robinson brothers hurt. They would have been handing it to a different true freshman if they didn't have Nate Frazier. And they trust Nate Frazier. He's potentially going to be one of the premier backs in college football. So you don't have him, you have some problems. Trying to pull up the rest of this class. They got the number one player in the class, depending on who you ask, in Ellis Robinson at cornerback. He is someone that I think is going to be in the rotation at cornerback this season. Still fighting for that job. Daniel Harris from the previous class kind of has the leg up on him and DeMello Jones, another guy I'll talk about. But probably going to get on the field at least a little bit. So immediately we got 2 guys we know are going to be on the field. Ellis Robinson, another guy who I think will get his way on the field. Too talented to keep him off of it for too long. If he plays one practice, he will earn snaps. Another player that I should have mentioned a little bit earlier, a guy that actually did get into the rotation last year due to some injuries, 5-star linebacker Chris Cole. All right, this is a guy who can rush the passer, can play inside linebacker, can play a little bit of that hybrid role. 6'3", 210, right? A unit at that linebacker position. Another guy who is going to matter this season. He's going to be in the rotation. We saw him in it last year. I don't see how that changes. I think that his role only grows in what is a very deep linebacker room. He's joined by someone that was ranked higher than him, Justin Williams. The staff is raving about these young linebackers, about how they're some of the hardest workers on the football team. They talked about that over spring. Justin Williams was the #1 linebacker in the 2024 class. He's a fellow 5-star with Chris Cole. He didn't get the playing time that Chris Cole did, and Chris Cole made a little bit of an impact in some of those games, even scored a touchdown. That's going to change. He's going to be in the rotation this year at linebacker. So we're talking about Ellis Robinson probably going to play this year. Justin Williams, KJ Bolden is a starter. Nate Frazier's a starter. Chris Cole, definitely in the rotation. That's 5 guys already who are going to be sophomores or redshirt freshmen that are 100% going to be in this lineup. And we're going to keep going down the list because there's more. The other corner, DeMello Jones, in the same boat as Ellis Robinson. He's fighting for time. I think that he sees a little bit of time out there, at the very minimum in some garbage time, but someone that's competing with Ellis Robinson and Daniel Harris for that cornerback spot. So I think that's 6 guys who, at the very minimum, crack the rotation. A starter, projected starter on the defensive line, Joseph Jonah Ajonye. They had Mykel Williams. They had Trayvon Walker. They've had Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. They had big athletic defensive ends. Joseph Jonah Ajonye is the next one to be the starter at that position. I think he plays a ton this season. I think he potentially is a full-time starter. That's 7 players from the 2024 class that are going to be contributors to this football team. And remember, this is just their second year. Someone on the offensive line that's projected to be in the starting lineup or at least going to fight for the job. So this one's kind of a TBD. Daniel Calhoun. If you ask people, they think that he's going to win one of the starting guard spots opposite of super senior Micah Morris. I think that he has a good chance to do it. He was competing and rotating in there before he dealt with a lower body injury this spring that kept him out for most of spring practice. But people think that Daniel Calhoun is likely the starter there at guard. He's at least going to compete for that. If that's the case, that's 8 players now in this 2024 class that are going to be heavy contributors to this team. Another guy who's going to get on the field because Georgia likes to rotate through at least 3 tight ends. Well, tight end 3 this season is going to be Jaden Riddell, high 4-star prospect from that 2024 recruiting class. About 6'3", 6'4", 230, 235. He's fast. You saw him make a couple of plays at G-Day where he can turn the corner and kind of beat you with his speed. That's number 9, number 10 on a list of guys who I think are going to be contributors to this football team early in their career. We'll keep going down the list. Michael Uni, another guy who's projected to potentially be a starter on this offensive line. He's at least competing. So you're probably not going to see Uni, and I know I'm mispronouncing his name. I've gotten it wrong and right, but it's one of those that I have trouble with. Him and Daniel Calhoun are competing to be on that starting offensive line. Probably not both of them, but one of them has a good chance. You keep going down this list. There's more guys. Justin Green, someone who might rotate on the defensive line. Quintavious Johnson, someone that's probably going to rotate as an edge rusher. You saw him playing some garbage time. They did go out and get Elo Mendoza in the transfer portal, and I think that will inhibit Quintavious Johnson's ability to get on the field in important action, but I still think he's going to see some playing time. Chauncey Bowens, I think, will be in this running back rotation. So we're north of 10 guys at this point. I haven't mentioned Sokovie White, who I think is going to find his way on the field as a wide receiver. You go through this recruiting class, and it is stacked with contributors. And then you think about, well, not everybody can be a contributor, right? Maybe Calhoun or Uni or Sokovie White, maybe they don't break onto the field. They're still going to matter because they're going to be reserves that they can go to. And there's going to be no more important reserve than quarterback Ryan Puglisi. He's the backup quarterback this year. If something happens to Gunnar Stockton, Ryan Puglisi's going to be out there on the field. And look, I don't think that it's much of a quarterback competition, but Gunnar hasn't officially been named the starting quarterback, right? There hasn't been an official announcement for that. So it's still not impossible that he doesn't win this job. I don't think so. But when you think about how the backup quarterback, a redshirt freshman, is also in this class, we're talking about a handful of important starters, potentially your best defensive player, in KJ Bolden, your RB1, your quarterback 2, some defensive backs, couple linebackers. This class was stacked, and not all of them are going to contribute this season, but more of them are going to contribute the next season when they're in year 3, and you're going to see how important it is to put together a really good recruiting class with a lot of players you really believe can be contributors, not just down the line, but immediately. Yes, Zachary Branch matters. Getting guys like Darian Kendrick in the past, a defensive back, that matters. Ohio State, getting Caleb Downs, that mattered. But having this base and a base of players you can trust, that's always going to matter a little bit more. Thank you for watching.